Okay, well, I'm so excited that everyone is here with us today. Welcome to our second session in our Impact Award series. I'm Laura Weaver, Director of Professional Development with Campus Compact. And once again, I'll be your host for this series. Each year, Campus Compact celebrates shining examples of meaningful, impactful civic and community engagement work by highlighting presidents, faculty, community engagement professionals, students, and programs that illustrate positive impact higher education can have for the public good happening at our member campuses across the country. Today, I have the privilege of being joined by Lynn Kalinowski. I think I got that correct there, Lynn, who is the director of the program for teaching East Asia at the University of Colorado Boulder and is representing UC Boulder's Teaching East Asia Through Picture Books program. I was reading up a little bit more about the program, kind of refreshing my memory from reading about it last winter. I was trying to think of when that was, last winter, because this program was one of our 2026 Excellence in Civic and Community Engagement Programming awardees. And it is such a wonderful program, and I'm excited for everyone to hear more about it. Lynn is going to share more, but I'll just give you a little bit of a highlight. This program spans 3 years from 2024 to 2026, and it really worked to train UC Boulder students as interns, where they developed research and teaching skills through a commitment to global education, cultural diversity, civic mindedness through their work and service. They were mentored by staff in the program, and they created picture books that focused on specific regions of East Asia, and those corresponded to each individual year's theme. The UC students then developed a lesson plan and activities based on their book to really hone their skills. And they worked with different K-12 programs across Colorado. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lynn, but to date, the program has brought China, Japan, Korea, Mongolia, and Taiwan to thousands of students.
That's correct.
And that really has helped to create stronger cross-cultural understandings and furthering the support of more inclusive societies and mutual understanding, something I know we all believe we really need to continue to cultivate. I know you all did not join today to hear me go on and on. You really joined to hear Lynn. So it is my pleasure to turn it over to Lynn so that we can hear more about this impressive and award-winning program. So, Lynn, without further ado, I am going to turn it
Thank
over to
you.
you and get started sharing our slides.
Okay. And should I just tell you next slide when we're ready to move on?
Yes. Yep. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get our slides up and running. Yeah, there we go. Maybe too many screens, too many screens. That's always the case. Okay. Think we're on the right screen, right, Lynn?
Yes. Just
Okay.
let me bring it up on my computer too. Okay. So yes, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining. I'm really honored. And thank you to the Campus Compact for hosting these webinars that really allow us to kind of share our best practices and experiences with a larger audience. It's not often that we get to do that. So thank you so much. And this presentation today is about connecting university undergrads and graduate students with K-12 teachers and their classrooms. So I'm going to discuss and kind of showcase the program that we've been running for the last 3 years, and that involves kind of multiple levels. The program is called Teaching East Asia Through Picture Books. And each year we chose a different focus for the program. The first year was natural sciences, then the second geography, and this past spring we focused on biography. Explained very simply, this is how the program works. The staff here at the Program for Teaching East Asia, or TEA, how we call it, and it's a very small staff, there's only 3 of us, trained CU undergraduate and a couple of graduate students to go into local classrooms and do a read aloud or a story time. For each visit, our students read the book in a very kind of interactive way. They presented a lesson to the classroom as well as an activity. And the activity was typically a craft, especially in lower elementary classes, but not always. This is fairly labor intensive in terms of staff time, but I would say that it was pretty much worth the effort. All right, next slide. So who are we? The Program for Teaching East Asia, its mission is to enhance and expand teaching and learning about East Asia in American K-12 education. TEA was established in 1985, so we have a very long history, as the Rocky Mountain Japan Project. In 1998, it became the Program for Teaching East Asia, with generous funding from the Freeman Foundation to undertake programs that focused on Japan and China. In 2008, we also incorporated Korea into our programming. TEA moved to CU Boulder in 2001, so we've been here for just over 25 years. And TEA is affiliated with the university's Center for Asian Studies. We are a founding member of the National Consortium for Teaching About Asia. So we can move to the next slide. So what is NCTA? NCTA, or the National Consortium for Teaching About Asia, was formed in 1998, also with funding from the Freeman Foundation. And it's a consortium, a collaboration of East Asian Studies programs at 7 universities across the country. And on the slide that I have there, you can see all of the sites where there's an NCTA coordinating site. It's a multi-year initiative to encourage and facilitate teaching and learning about East Asia in elementary and secondary schools nationwide. So each NCTA site develops its own programs independently, but we do work together to set the parameters for content-driven programming. So our goal is always to deliver quality, content-heavy programs for K-12 teachers about East Asia, be they online or in person. So we do programs that can be a 1-hour webinar to much more intense programs that can be, we just had a whole week here at CU Boulder with 24 teachers from across the country who studied the Mongols in East Asia. To do all this programming, we rely on a web of connections and expertise that we've developed and nurtured throughout many years. So next slide. At the University of Colorado, we've developed kind of a sub-expertise in teaching children's literature. So our website features some of the curriculum that we've developed. You can see that on the left. And to run this outreach program that I'm describing to you today, we've combined that expertise with award-winning books, specifically the Freeman Book Awards that are administered by NCTA. The awards recognize quality books for children and young adults that contribute meaningfully to an understanding of East and Southeast Asia. Although we don't use these books exclusively, they're a great resource for us in terms of finding quality books for the classroom that really help to deliver that content about East Asia that we seek. Next slide. So we consider it our mission to increase the presence of East Asia in K-12 classrooms, and we consider this to be fundamental to the American education system. And we believe that this work matters a lot. So these quotes here that I have on the slide are from the Association for Asian Studies. And they note that knowing about East Asia is crucial to our understanding of the world and how it works, to our ability to see beyond ourselves, to understand cultural differences as well as similarities. It's crucial for our national security and for our prosperity. So we need to and we want to move forward with students who have empathy for fellow world citizens, who understand the humanity of other peoples in the world, their stories, and their dignity. So in order to foster interest in East Asia at the college level, starting at the secondary level is crucial. And I would also say that starting even earlier is even better, which is why we have a program that is really aimed at elementary education. Next slide. So why K-12 outreach? So we can bring content about East Asia to K-12 classrooms through professional development done through our staff, faculty, and key collaborations. And we think that this is really important. So we don't want to bring just general content or kind of surface content, but we want to bring cutting edge new research into that outreach, into the classrooms. We want teachers and students to be interested in the world around them, to be curious, to move beyond stereotypical narratives. We want to create a pipeline of people who are going to demand to know more, who are going to come to college asking for language courses. They are going to ask for content about the world. And we also work a lot with university faculty to deliver most of our programming. And as we engage them into outreach, it also helps them understand where their students are coming from. What are they learning in secondary education so that our students in the kind of university level can understand this broader educational landscape. So in the words of Mr. Houghton Friedman, if you're going to do anything about education in America, you have to have teachers, which is why we think K-12 outreach is so fundamental. Next slide. The goals of this general outreach program that I'm presenting today were kind of multifaceted. We wanted to increase the teaching and learning about East Asia in the classroom, which is pretty much our basic mission. We also worked to increase the knowledge of natural sciences, geography, and biography literacy, depending on the year of the program. We committed to cultural diversity in the classroom, but also for our CU Boulder students. We are committed to civic mindedness, and we wanted to develop a more inclusive society, starting with children. And we also work to decrease, through all of this, anti-Asian hate and violence. Next slide. So anti-Asian crimes have a long history in the US. And today, you can see on that little chart on the top right, Colorado, where we are located and trying to have some impact, is one of the top 10 states with the highest number of anti-Asian incidents, according to the Asian Americans Advancing Justice 2025 report. And that same report showed that people are victimized in schools as well. So our goal, lofty as it may be, is to help turn schools from places where anti-Asian sentiment can exist to places of acceptance, of curiosity, and respect. Next slide. Unless you think that expressions of anti-hate are just something that bubbled up during COVID and that it's all behind us, this little kind of slide shows you that an incident that was caught on camera during the recent FIFA World Cup. And that kind of made the news shows us that it's really something that we have to deal with every day. So we're kind of hoping to help move beyond that. The next slide. So I just want to mention the support that we got for this program. So funding was provided by a grant from the Public and Community Engaged Scholarship Office at the University of Colorado Boulder, from the Japan Foundation, New York, and also from our grant to NCTA from the Freeman Foundation. So without all of this support, this program could not have happened. So we are incredibly honored and grateful to have had this funding. Next slide. As we conceived of this program, we also created online courses on these books. We created webinars with the authors, as well as in-person workshops for teachers, right? So outside of the scope of the outreach part. So the staff at TEA became deeply familiar with the books. We knew teachers have very little time to include social studies and cultural studies into their classroom. They really have a lot put on them that demands a lot of time and don't always have time to work with kind of cultural studies. So we used a cross-disciplinary approach, integrating cultural studies into other disciplines. We know, for example, that teachers don't have a lot of time to teach about Korea, but we know that they have to teach geography concept. So we give them the opportunity to use books that feature East Asia to teach these concepts. The program was designed to meet documented priorities in elementary education so that teachers would be vested in them, with attention to knowledge and skill development in the sciences, geography, global competencies, and literacy. So the project responds to specific classroom needs that teachers have to address through their standards. As students gain knowledge about the world and these topics, they also learn about the cultures of East Asia, making them more familiar with cultural similarities and differences. Through the use of very specific picture books to address the content, the students also gain literacy skills, but they could even address visual art standards. So we've had some art teachers interested in our program as well because of the illustrations in the book and what those could portray. So at the same time as this is kind of the goal of or how we're trying to address classroom, we are at the same time developing in our college students, and I'll talk a little bit about them more in a couple of minutes, we are teaching them some real skills in terms of presentation and commitment to cultural diversity and civic mindedness through service. Next slide. So the first year, we focused our program on teaching natural sciences. So the books we chose illustrated different concepts that connect to the curriculum and to the natural science curriculum that teachers have to teach. The first book, Kai the Dancing Butterfly, illustrates the migration of the purple crow butterfly, which is an endemic species in Taiwan, that teachers can easily pair with the migration of the monarch butterfly that they often teach. The second book on when spring comes to the DMZ showcases specific flora and fauna that have been left untouched because of political reasons. So here the teachers can use this book to really showcase different types of flora and fauna that live in a specific area. As students learn about the phases of the moon, the book, A Big Mooncake for Little Stars, can be used to showcase the phases of the moon through a little girl eating a mooncake. And students can also learn about Chinese culture through the Mid-Autumn Festival. And here I would say Chinese culture, that's not limited to China, as the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival is celebrated in many places throughout the world. When the sakura bloom, through the blooming of the cherry blossoms, students learn about botany and Japanese culture as well, and the significance of the sakura in Japanese culture. And finally, we have a book that showcases a scientist's approach in China to using insects as pest control in farming instead of pesticides. So you perhaps can't really tell, but these books really can span different grade levels. So the book, A Big Mooncake for Little Star, for example, has very few words, but lots of illustrations. The last book, Moth and Wasp, Soil and Ocean, has a lot of text. So that book, not so great for first grade, but we were able to even bring that book into presentations into high school. And our students had to adapt their presentations depending on the grade level where they were presenting. Next slide. So during our second year, we focused on geography. So East Asia is very vast, of course, with many different types of topography and ways that humans have adapted to those geographical spaces. The books we chose showcase different ways in which humans adapt and use their environment and how kind of they work with that environment. Warrior Princess explored the nomadic life on the steppes of Mongolia, showcased the habitat and the Mongols' relationship to animals, how they use those animals and work with them. The book Rice describes agricultural aspects of rice cultivations in southern China, specifically Yunnan province, and here very specifically by a minority population in China, by the Han people. So kind of very focused on how they cultivate the land in a very kind of hilly landscape, as you can see from the picture of the rice cultivation under the book. How they terrace the landscape to cultivate the land. The Sound of Silence follows a young student in the urban setting of Tokyo, Japan. So here the environment is an incredibly dense urban environment where the little boy searches for a place where he can find silence. The Ocean Calls teaches about the tradition of the Haenyeo, the free diving women in Korea who dive along the shore, the coast for food. So the connection between human and ocean and coastline here showcased in a beautiful way, including the description of a tradition that is slowly dying and how the Haenyeo women are trying to keep it alive. Mommy's Hometown introduces the concept of change over time, which pretty much all schools and teachers have to teach. So, and showcases urban development as a mother shows her hometown, which was very rural when she was young, to her child, and it's now become much more urban. So next slide. Finally, this past spring in 2026, we did Teaching Japan through picture book biographies. And here we showcased 3 books that feature famous Japanese. The first one introducing the story of the artist Katsushika Oe in Edo, Japan in the 19th century. So showcasing an artist. The second book described how Momofuku Ando created instant ramen after World War II. And this was incredibly popular in elementary schools, as all little kids have had instant ramen. So they were able to really kind of connect easily with that book. And I would say that this book can also be used to teach science, as it really features the scientific method as well. Momofuku Ando tried, trial and error, different ways to create the instant part of the ramen. So we see that also illustrated in the book. Up, Up, Ever Up explores the life of Junko Tabe, a Japanese mountaineer who was the first woman to summit Everest. And we see through this book, and all these three books are just beautifully illustrated. But in this last book, we also see Junko Tabe after seeing the environmental impact of mountaineering on the environment, who really worked to kind of clean up Everest. So we can see the impact that these three Japanese people had on literally the world. So teaching children, I think, a lot about the impact that those people had on how we live today. Next slide. So the key components of the program are, of course, finding funding and then choosing the books. But once that is done, and I've kind of talked a little bit about that, we start recruiting students in the fall semester, and we run the program in the spring. So a big part of this program is obviously recruiting the undergrads who are going to do the presentations. To recruit students, we target specific departments at CU. So the year that we worked on natural sciences, for example, we sent emails to biology faculty and departments asking, right, if they had suggestions or asking for them to advertise it. And same thing for geography. And then I think we targeted the English department when we did biography. But in addition to those departments, we also targeted students in East Asian studies who are interested in East Asia in general, as well as the School of Ed. So for undergrads who would be interested in a teaching career. Students had to fill out an online application, and they also had to answer some essay questions. So we kind of pushed them a little bit to see their interest, right? One of the questions was, why do you think it's important to teach about East Asia in elementary school? And once we have received all the application, we then held interviews with the students and then chose the students who would be participating in the program. So we do this in the fall. Students then go on winter break and they come back in January and we start training them. We held an orientation during which we explain our program, a little bit more in depth to them. We talk about our expectations of them, told them what they should expect when going into the classroom. So we we teach them some really basic elements of this, right? How they should dress, what they will need to bring their ID to enter a school, what they should expect in terms of classroom. We also talk to them about what they should expect in terms of student reactions to the presentations, depending on the age of the students. Once we kind of do this orientation, we then send them back to go and prep their presentation. So each student is only assigned one book. And they go and they practice their read alouds, they create a lesson and an activity, and then they come back to us and they show us what they've developed. And they do a mock presentation and we pretend to be little second graders and they do their presentation to us. Some students will do this a couple of times depending on how ready they are, but some students, or most students, are ready to kind of hit the classroom after one presentation to us. Next slide. At the same time as we're kind of working with the students and prepping them, we are recruiting teachers and classrooms for our presentations. We mainly do this through our newsletter. So we advertise the program and have teachers sign up for it. And then we have to schedule the visits. So, a program is only as successful as you can manage all the small logistics behind the scenes. And for this, we're incredibly grateful to the grad student who matched all the CU undergrad schedules and their class schedules with the classrooms and the teachers and what they wanted and when we could visit. So that is a small logistical nightmare, but once you've done that, you're ready to go, and then the visits start. When we conceived of the program, we thought that students would just be driving themselves to the classrooms, only to find out that most of the CU students did not have a car. And so the staff kind of jumped in, and we did, I would say, most of the driving. Regardless of if a student had a car or not, we always went to the student's first visit. We want to support that student. We wanted to provide feedback. So on the drive back, we're talking about the presentation. How do they feel about it? What worked? What didn't work? How could they tweak it? And being there also assures a certain level of quality control on our end, right? We want to make sure that our students are doing a good job since they are representing CU in local schools. During each visit, we gifted a set of the books to the classroom. So on the year on teaching the biography of famous Japanese people, every single classroom received a copy of the 3 books. So that leaves a lasting impact into the classroom. The students can go and reread the books, and then future cohorts of students can also have access to the books. We follow up with each classroom teacher with a set of resources so that they can better teach each of the books in that year's set. After the visit, each CU student has to do a self-evaluation of how they felt the program went. And then every classroom teacher also had to do an evaluation. So we kind of get a real sense of how our students are feeling about it, as well as if the classroom teachers are happy about it. Next slide. So we should be on the slide with the 2 maps. So we visited a lot of schools, and each dot on the map shows a school visited. So in one school, we also sometimes presented to multiple classes, right? So we would perhaps visit all the 3rd grade classes in one school. So as you can see from the map on the left, there's a very high concentration of schools between Denver and Boulder, which was really our targeted area. So that little cluster, that's between, largely between Denver and Boulder. The school that is circled on that map all the way to the left is in Grand Junction, and that was done through an interactive Zoom presentation. So Grand Junction is about 4-hour drive from Boulder. So the distance wouldn't really allow us for an in-person visit. That would be 4 hours to get there, an hour and a half at the school, another 4 hours to get back. So we can't really do that. But we're nonetheless able to visit the school virtually. And any school that had wanted, that would have been far away, that would have signed up, we would have done it that way. As we were coming out of the COVID pandemic when we started the program, virtual visits were also part of a contingency plan should we need to isolate again. So we had kind of mentally prepared to go that route if we needed to. We also did a couple of presentations to some schools that were online schools, so that do everything virtually. The map on the right is a close-up, so a zoom in of that cluster in the Denver-Boulder corridor. CU students had to present to a variety of grades and situations, which helped them develop skills and adapt their presentations. Some schools had really high concentrations of English learners, for example, so kind of demanding a different kind of reading skill from our undergrads. And an undergrad could be presenting to 1st graders on one day and then 5th graders on the next. So they really had to learn how to kind of shift their presentation to meet the audience's need. And although not the main focus, right, we really targeted elementary schools, but we did do some presentation to middle and high school classes. And in one case in Gold Hill, the CU student presented to the entire school. And this was a 2-room school, and the entire school consisted of 12 kids. When we did this, I did not know that we still had such small schools, but we do, and we presented to them. Next slide. So the impact of this program. In the 3 years that we've run this program, we've visited a total of 144 classroom visits, and we've impacted or reached through those readings over 3,000 K-12 students. We employed 15 undergraduate students throughout those 3 years, and 3 graduate students as well. 2 of the grad students were in the School of Ed program doing master's degrees, and one of them was a student who worked in our office. And she was really kind of the person running all the logistics for us. In addition, we distributed 660 books on East Asia to these classrooms, so creating a lasting impact in the classroom. In the photo on the left, you see one of our students there presenting to high schoolers, so a ton of high schoolers, right? And you can imagine that the reaction to a read aloud by high schoolers is very different than when you're reading to first graders who, right, are just so excited to have you there, whereas high schoolers are much more aloof, and you have to kind of learn how to kind of shift your presentation to meet that need. You also have some of the crafts that the kids did, and all the way to the right, you have our student Ashley, who presented to that 2-room classroom in Gold Hill, and that's the entrance to the school. So those numbers that show the impact are great for grant reports, but I would say that the real impact is when you read the student, or that we really kind of appreciated was reading the student commentary on their visits, as well as what the teachers thought. So I just included one of those here that I'm going to read for you, so you can kind of see a little bit more of that human impact and not the by the numbers impact. So it starts, and this is one of our students who wrote this. In one class, there was a first grade student who had recently moved here from Japan. According to the teacher, his English language acquisition has been going well, but he still feels lost in class at times and shy. When I said, "Ohayo gozaimasu," his face lit up. He was very excited that I was sharing his culture with his class and pointed out several details of things he recognized. His family's from Osaka, so seeing the takoyaki in the book was a great connection, and he was eager to share his experience eating them. Some students commented that octopus sounded gross, but after seeing the Japanese student talk excitedly about it, they mentioned that they were willing to try it. This was a great example of bringing in the culture of students in the class and how personal connections helped other students to be more open-minded and appreciative of their culture. So this commentary is just absolutely awesome for us when we read it, right? We see kind of all the goals that we're trying to reach are met in that comment. And we also heard from the teacher in that classroom who also mentioned how her student just brightened up and was kind of a different kid after this moment, that it really helped him integrate his classroom. So we didn't have, right, the intent of reaching this particular student, but we can see how when we include, right, here the study of Japan, and I'm pretty sure this is the book When the Sakura Bloom, that when we include this book, this student felt included, and his fellow students also understood him in a new way and in a positive way. And this also, right, helped the teacher, which was not one of our goals, but is awesome to read about. So the next slide, please. So there are many rewards to this program, and one is that the CU undergrads really succeeded in this program, and they absolutely loved it. It helped them to build their own research capabilities. You might not think that a picture book is something that needs to be researched and the topic in it needs to be researched, but we can prove you wrong there. And our students did a lot of research to do their presentation. It helped their public speaking abilities, their adaptability as they had to shift their focus in terms of the audience, their sense of responsibility, they had to show up, and their civic mindedness. Some of our students have expressed interest in teaching as a result of this program, and the program has solidified their desire to teach as well. So we had some kids in the School of Ed, and they really felt like this rewarded them in a way that they hadn't foreseen. Our students add the program to their resumes as work experience. And we had one student decide to go teach English in Korea. And some students are using the experience as they apply to some other programs like JET, which is a teaching English in Japan program. Students use us as a reference on their job application. And one employer told us that it's directly because of the student's involvement in this program that he obtained his position. And obviously we are incredibly, we also got some CU recognition. They wrote a piece about us, but we're also very honored to have received the Compact, College Compact Award. It's really an honor to have received this, and we're really grateful. And so the last slide. So in addition to kind of just all the rewards that come from this and the impact, really this is just an absolutely awesome program that just brought a lot of joy to our office, and I think to the students who took part in it. We have here, this is just a thank you note that I think these were second grade students who got a visit from one of our students. And they wrote her a thank you letter for her visit with a craft. This was the Magic Ramen book that she presented. And the students really enjoyed her. And they wrote a thank you letter, which she then shared with us. So it was wonderful for us to get. And we are just very grateful to have had the opportunity to be able to do this program. So we're grateful to our funders and grateful to be recognized by the Campus Compact. So thank you. That's the end of my presentation. I don't know if there are questions.
Yes, we would love to invite folks to ask questions. You can either ask them in the chat, or if you want to use the raise hand feature, I can unmute you and you can actually ask Lynn your question by vocalizing it. While folks are formulating their questions, I took a bunch of notes and have several questions, and I'm trying to decide which one to start with. I guess maybe the one that I'll start with first is, Lynn, when you were talking about it was probably when you were featuring the books. In the very beginning, you talked about that you had worked with some of the authors of the books to do some webinars and create some other resources. So that, in addition to the resources that your students created, are those on your website for the program, or are those one, publicly accessible? And if so, are they accessible to folks outside of Colorado? How does that work?
So yes, so some of the resources are definitely available. So the author webinars, the ones that we did in collaboration with another NCTA site, at 5 colleges, those are online, and I can send the link for that.
Yeah.
So
I
those are
think folks
online
would
and you
love
can
to see
see
those.
those. And
Yeah.
then there are a lot of resources that are developed on the Freeman Book Awards. And if you go on the website for the Freeman Book Awards, you can see culture notes and curriculum connections. So those are linked to the books. Those are the ones that would be kind of freely available that I'm thinking of at this time
Yeah.
that
Like
you could just
publicly
kind of go
accessible.
see
Yeah.
and tap into.
Okay. I think this is a great resource. I think what you all are doing is an amazing resource. I was thinking about, so I'm here located in Indiana, and prior to my time with Campus Compact, many, many years ago, I worked very closely with both our early childhood education program and elementary education program within the Purdue system. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this would have been an amazing resource, amazing opportunity for all of those elementary education students. And I could see how seamlessly that would have worked into all of these programs. And so I could see how this type of program could be replicated across the country. And so it makes sense how you are working in with these different schools as a part of this consortium. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and
it's
I mean,
brilliant.
yes, the reality is you could do this program, right? You could take the bones of it and teach
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. I was
Right.
thinking about that. I was thinking about how like you could respond to the different communities that are around your local school. So, in various ways.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
wonderful.
we always try and make sure that we're providing resources for the teachers, right? So
Yeah.
we're not just kind of giving them this book cold. I mean, they got the presentation from the student, and typically that was always in a PowerPoint, and the
Hmm.
teachers always received the PowerPoint
Yeah.
after so that they could use it for years to come. But then we provided them with resources for all the books. Um,
Yeah. Okay. Great. And I'm sure then that is something that they can then, because that was kind of a next question is when you are providing them that set of books, then are they able to request, oh, we'd love for you to come in and do the presentation on this book? But it sounds like if you're able to then provide them the resources for the other books, then they are able to go back and see how does this integrate into other opportunities that I'm doing.
Yes. I mean, yes. I mean, we were limited to some extent by our budget and
Of course,
time.
of course.
But one of the things is that schools also have now very limited budget for field
Yes.
trips, for example.
Yes. Yes.
So, and this is not a field trip, but it brings something in different
Yes.
into the school day for the teachers, for the kids.
Yes. Very much
So,
so.
we were kind of bringing the field trip to them in a way
Yeah.
and getting them not only to just go out of the school but go to somewhere in East Asia in a way. So
Yeah.
so that was really nice to be able to provide that for the schools as well. And so
Yeah.
I included the link to the Freeman Book Awards so you can just kind of look at that as well as
Yeah.
the link to the webinars, which are um, the webinars live on the 5 college
Yeah.
site.
We'll make sure to include that for everyone who's on the call today. We'll make sure to include that in our follow-up email, which will include the video for today's call, as well as the slides for the session today. So that'll be a resource that we'll include in the follow-up email. One of the things that I'm also really curious, you talked a lot about that you've been collecting this data from not only the schools that you visited, but both quantitative and qualitative. I loved the quote that you had on that slide that really hit me. I got all the goosebumps, all the feels from that for sure. And it sounds like you've got your students doing reflections and things like that. So this is a question I ask most people. Have you written about this program? Have you published about it? Do you plan to do that?
We have written internally. Well, so we've
Yeah,
written on a couple of CU uh, internal publications about it, but they
yeah,
are online.
yeah,
So we have written about them in that way, and CU wrote one piece about it as
yeah.
well.
Mhm.
So we've done that. And we're trying to do something else as well.
I know
Um,
how it is. I know how
yes.
it is.
So we're trying to get something published about the geography part of it.
Oh,
If
great.
we can get, if we can, find the
Well,
time to do it.
I, first of all, I understand that. That is one of the biggest challenges writing. And I will offer this. One of the things that I love to do is I love to help folks brainstorm and think about their writing projects. So know that if you ever need someone to bounce ideas off of or to be a sounding board, I am happy to do that. It
Well,
is
that's
that
wonderful. Thank you.
that is the nerd in me for sure. Um, so I'm very excited because I think that again, I think another thing that you should think about is like this as a model. I think this is an excellent program model. I mean, clearly because we selected it as one of our programs of the year. But I think it's a great model. Like you said, you can take like the bones, so to speak, or the framework of it and be able to replicate this style in so many different ways. And that was one of the things that I was really thinking a lot about is the fact that, you didn't just stick with education students that you were doing outreach to. You really, and the program really reached beyond that and into so many different disciplines. And I was actually writing down, I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if you thought about also, along with education students every year, thinking about like social work students or even health professionals, because as a part of their professional standards, they do have the professional standards around intercultural awareness. And I could see how there could be many students in many different disciplines that this could really feed into that. So um, I could definitely see this being something that could really be attractive to a lot of students.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think every single student who took part in this really came out of it with a completely positive outlook on the experience. They
Yeah.
really liked, and some of them were incredibly nervous going into their first presentation. They didn't know what to expect. And then, it turns into a really positive in classroom experience. Um, and some of them are not easy. I was not there when they were presenting to middle school students, but that is not an easy crowd.
Yes. Oh,
So,
yes.
so, so to prep for that and, come out happy about what happened with the
Yes.
students is a great experience for them.
Yeah, and I was thinking about like the two-room school, and just the amount of eye-opening experience for the student that went and presented there to think like I will admit I went to a very small high school, but it was not that small, and that is such a unique experience for that student to see that and to experience that and to come back and be like, this is an experience that folks have, and to compare that to a very densely populated urban area, and to like have those different experiences, and then to reflect on that and to talk about that and to really explore what that looks like. And I think that also has me thinking about. I would love to know more about the types of assessments that you're doing, both for your CU students. And I could see that as kind of like a next path in this project. So, yeah,
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience for the students and for us as well. So
yeah,
as the staff really enjoyed going with the students, even though the driving was a pain. Um, we did love the time that we spent in the classroom with the students was really fun. We could see the impact directly. We could see how just amazed the kids were to learn the content.
Yeah.
And they would, they would have their little activity at the end, and you could see they would be talking about it. They were involved. They would turn around and ask the student questions. They were engaged. They liked it, and they learned something, which was, the ultimate goal.
Well, I have really enjoyed today's session. I cannot wait to see what the next phase in this project is and the next things that your program has coming. So I just want to say thank you. I'm going to leave it to see if anybody in our audience has one final question they'd like to drop in the chat. But as we wait for that, I just want to see, Lynn, if you have any final words that you would like to share with us.
I just want to thank you. Thank you for, honoring the program. Thank you for allowing us to kind of share the program with others as well. We really don't get to do that a lot, so it's great. Thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure, and I'm so excited for your program, and I'm sure you are preparing for the fall.
We are.
Yes, very much so. Um, Thank you all for joining us today on our second session of our Impact Awards Summer Series. Please be sure to join us. We are taking a break next. We do have one session on Tuesday. I forgot that. We have one session on Tuesday for our series, and then we will skip next Thursday and reconvene the following Tuesday. So if you already are registered for next week's session, I will see you on Tuesday. And if not, please check out our calendar of events at compact.org/events. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks so much. And it'll be exciting to see what's next for Lynn's program.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.